years, I guess. And I'm originally from Maine, so I'm very familiar with a lot of snow, and this is wussy stuff here, no big deal. Although I've had enough of it for my lifetime. But what I like best about it is sitting inside and watching it come down. It's very pretty.
Very nice. Thank you, Melissa. Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen McKinney. I'm the Strategic Housing Initiatives Program Officer at the United Way. And what do I love about snow? I mean, I like being warm in the snow. I also like the quiet, like when you go outside and like it's just quiet because there's snow. It's just a different kind of quiet. So I do love that.
That is nice. That is nice. And one more quick note about snow. I heard an interesting report on the news yesterday about outdoor activities and continuing to go outside in the snow. And she said, it's not that it's too cold, it's that you're not wearing appropriate clothing. So just pile on all the clothing and still go outside. And she said, you can still have a barbecue. Don't stand outside for 5 hours, but you can go out for a little while and grill something and come back in. Like, I think that's stretching it a little bit. All right, so our agenda for today, we're going to check in on a number of items. And certainly I'm always interested and open for agenda items you all may have, and feel free to email me or Sharika ahead of time if there's something you'd love to discuss in these meetings. My email is jnelsonweaver@familyservicesforsyth.org. I've got 4, potentially 5 agenda items for today. One is education is needed with elected officials about what the homeless services are in our community that are federally funded, because we probably all have heard about cuts that are likely coming. So it's a great time to reach out to elected officials and educate them on what's going on and how we serve our community. We'll talk a bit about that. We need more commission members, and we need a new chair. For the chair roles specifically, we look for someone who has realtor experience or finance experience. So if you happen to know anyone who's interested in this service role, please nominate them. Send those names to me or to Sharika. Would love to talk to people to see who might be interested to join the commission. Family Services has a dream of expanding our domestic violence shelter to be able to serve more homeless survivors, people who are fleeing. So I'll tell you a bit about that, answer questions. I think Marlene is going to give us a bit of information about the HEAT effort, Homeless Encampment Action Team. We'd love to hear more about that. And then our last item will be to think about the agenda for next meeting and consider if we want to have a brainstorming session about affordable housing in our community. Any other additions to the agenda? Does that sound okay with you all? Those items sound okay? All right, well then I will jump right in, and please interrupt me if you need to. So first, have y'all listened to the news lately? There's a lot going on with all different kind of cuts at the federal level. And my understanding is that HUD is, of course, one of the agencies that is getting significant cuts, and that the funding letter we generally get in our community every year about this time that tells us what contracts are going to be approved for next year so that we can continue the work of serving residents in our community who become homeless, to try to help them be housed so that our community can continue to be vibrant and strong. That letter that we recently got was actually rescinded by HUD in the last couple of weeks. So now is a great time to call elected officials and just let them know how we use these funds in our community and how these services allow us to care for our neighbors. And any information you want to share with anybody that's elected will certainly be helpful. I make calls a lot myself, and I'm really clear when I'm calling after hours as a personal citizen and when I'm calling in my job role. And in my job role, since I personally, my job is partially funded by a variety of different government grants, I never call to advocate. I don't make an ask. I don't ask for money. I don't ask for funding. I never make any kind of ask. Calling to educate is always appropriate. To say, this is what we do. Here's how we use the funds. How many, like Family Services, for example, has 34 survivors in apartments right now through the Rapid Rehousing Grant. Almost all of them either are working or have gone back to school, trying to get a decent wage so that they can care for their families and not have to go back to their abuser, not have to go back to living in the car with the children because they had to run from home because someone wasn't safe. So educating elected officials is always a good thing. And then if there's any kind of ask for funding or any kind of ask you might want to make advocacy-wise, I encourage you to consider, is that appropriate in your job role or not? And then make decisions accordingly if you want to make those kinds of education calls. Or want to encourage anybody you know, family, friends, coworkers, anyone to make those calls, because I think a lot of our elected officials have no idea how we serve the community every day and how all of us as taxpayers allow that to happen all over the country. So that's a really important item all the time. And especially right now, that's a tremendously important item. Any questions or comments about that? Anybody comfortable, not comfortable, have ideas, thoughts?
I have questions around, like, what does the rescinding letter mean? What is that? Do we know what that means at all?
I'm not 100% sure, and I'm not sure that our community is any different than all other continuing care communities across the country. I think what it means, from my understanding, in general, part of the way, Sharika's putting a note in the chat, you can call your lawmaker, you can call the Capitol Hill switchboard. She put the phone number in the chat. The federal elected officials are the ones right now who are most important to hear from us. Let's see. She's putting a whole lot in the chat. I think Sharika is in meetings with HUD today. Let's see, Capitol Hill switchboard. There are sample scripts.
Thank you, Sharika. I appreciate that. Thank you. That's great.
She's putting in a sample script concerned about funding and how it allows us to serve. There was an email that came out from the National Alliance to End Homelessness. If you all might be on that email list, they have some talking points. My understanding with lots of the cuts coming across the government is that existing contracts may or may not be fulfilled. The courts have ordered the administration to fulfill existing contracts in some situations. Whether that's happening or not sure. But certainly future contracts may or may not exist at this point. So if our COC's typical award letter was rescinded, then contracts may be under review, may or may not come. We really don't know. So now's a great time to call and let your elected officials know. You can call the switchboard number. You can call their local office. Of course, we have 2 senators, Bud and Tillis, and then you can go to the House of Representatives page and type in your zip code and find out who your representative is, because there are a number of different ones that cover Forsyth County or wherever you may live. So that's a great option. Thank you. Any other questions or suggestions? We have really compelling stories to tell, and I think most elected officials don't ever hear them. They hear a lot from people who call and complain, but I think it's wonderful to call to say, this is what taxpayer funding has allowed us to do. We help people's lives change dramatically by helping them get off the street, helping them stay in an apartment while they get their feet back under them and can get a job that allows them to contribute in our community again. it's an amazing story, that incredible work we get to do every day, and very difficult. And the people we serve don't tend to call and tell their own story. So it's really helpful for us to call and educate. Our next agenda item is we would love to have some more commission members and people from different walks of life who might be able to contribute to the conversations of this group. In particular, we would love a chair, someone with financial experience. And one of the key important roles for the commission is to review the funding requests and make decisions about the funding requests of how we as a community and the agencies will serve homeless residents in our community. That's a really important role of this commission. So if you know of anybody, we are very much looking for leadership and members and creative people who are willing to chip in ideas and try to help make things happen.
Is this something that the membership committee helping with this as well? Or
I don't know, but
is it
that's
on
an
their
awesome
radar?
suggestion. That's a great suggestion. We should certainly loop in with them.
Loop them in.
And I'll make a note to reach out. And for folks who may be new or just would like a refresher, the way our continuum of care operates is that we really have a three-legged stool in our community. We have the continuum of care cabinet and the city, and we have the United Way and their role in coordinating housing and homelessness efforts. And then we also have this commission, which I think was the first, which started before, or maybe started with the United Way before HUD had the continuum of care structure in our nation. So the point also is to divide decision-making authority to ensure fairness the best we can. So no one leg of that stool controls everything or controls too much, that it's a community-wide effort. So that's a piece of the role of this commission, is to help make funding decisions and advocate and spread the word in the community and look to see how systems can be a part of the solution. All right, next item. Stop me if you have a question. Just wanted to share that Family Services, we are the largest domestic violence service agency in our community, and we run the largest interpersonal violence shelter in Forsyth County. When we opened it in the mid-'80s, it was the largest in the state. It is no longer the largest in the state, but the Family Services shelter serves almost 200 people a year, mostly women with some children, some single women as well. But we turn people away all the time. We are often full. So it has been our dream for many years to be able to expand our shelter. Also, the building we are in, we are thrilled that it was given to us back in the 80s. And we had a capital campaign 40 years ago to expand it, but we need a new building. Parts of it are in the process of falling down. The core of the building is 100 years old, and it's time to have a larger replacement shelter. So Family Services is on that path. And just wanted to let you all know that a piece of that, the capital campaign we're currently in, will be a request to the city for some funding that can contribute to the building of that new building. So it's called a Home ARP funded project. So it's money the city already has that was given for serving low-income residents, and needs to be spent within a certain time frame. And so this Family Services project is a great project that can make use of those federal dollars that have come to the city but are earmarked for a certain kind of project. So this project is a great alignment. So just wanted you to be aware of that, that there's a zoning change happening. So you may hear of this come before City Council in the next month or two. So in case you're curious, like, oh, what's that? What's that Home ARP thing for a new shelter? It's a replacement shelter for the Family Services that is specific for survivors of domestic violence, human trafficking, sexual assault, elder abuse, and child abuse, child sexual assault. It's not a public campaign yet. I think we're in the midst of a capital campaign, and it should go public probably this fall, I think. I don't know if you know much about how capital campaigns work. You tend to try to raise about 90% of the money before you actually take it public. So you do a lot of recruitment and grant writing of large donors, and then the last 10% you put it out to the public and hopefully bring in the last 10%. It's a $10 million project for us to be able to double the number of clients we can serve in a year. And really help serve our community and not have to turn people away. We constantly are referring to other shelters and other communities. And sometimes our residents are willing to go and sometimes they're not willing to go. So we would love to be able to serve more survivors here. Any questions about that? All right, Miss Marlene, can you share a little bit with us about heat and what the heck this is? What's going on?
You hear how it says heat, so that means that it's hot. So the team, Homeless Encampment Action Team, will consist of the BEAR team, myself, City of Dwellings, and Code Enforcement. We will starting March the 5th at 10 o'clock. Okay, so this team will go out to different encampments, different areas, twice a month, and go out and make sure that individuals that are experiencing homeless get the understanding of the services that we provide. So we'll have the BEAR team if they need mental health. We will also have Mark and myself if we need, to find shelters for them individuals. If we need to find, they need to go to the B-Hub. If they need to go, just understanding what their situation is. So this team will just meet in different areas. Our first spot that we'll start at is the bus station downtown. We'll go from the bus station to the park right there at 5th Street and Trade, and then we'll end up at the library. So just trying to get an idea of what they need and how we can help, and just understanding what they're going through. So I'm glad that this team is aboard. Coming and just doing the work. So, yeah.
So Marlene, can I ask you a question?
So that is what the heat is.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Perfect. So with the street outreach group, is there a city staff person who goes out every week, every day? How does that work? Do we respond when calls come in? Or just tell me a bit about how that works, please.
Okay, so I am that street outreach person that you're talking about.
Thank
so
you.
I am the boots on the ground daily. So I do go out, complaints that does come in. I do go to the different agency. I'm at the soup kitchen. I'm downtown. I'm in the encampment. So if the state do a complaint or a complaint come in through our code enforcement office, I'm that person that goes in, make sure that before the encampment is cleaned out, that I go in, do outreach with the individual, let them know, hey, they're coming. You need to, give them resource. Also, just encouraging them, hey, I understand where your living condition, and just giving them hope. So yes, I am that person. So yes, for the city of Winston.
Very good. Well, thank you for fulfilling that role.
Yes, thank you.
Very important. And then the last item I had on the agenda was to have a conversation to think about how we might be able to use this group differently. If there are other roles this group would like to have in coordination with the continuum of care. Would we like to do some broader planning about affordable housing in our community? Is that something that this group is interested to weigh in on? Are there other conversations about affordable housing or about low-income housing, workforce housing that are going on that you think we should tap into? Any of us could tap into? Any thoughts or ideas about how we might approach that conversation and try to maybe have some planning time about action steps that we could take together? Any ideas? And Shane, I know it's your last meeting. So I don't expect you.
Same.
There are a lot of conversations in the community around affordable housing. Habitat had some work groups around this specifically if we wanted to learn a little bit more about what they're doing, that kind of thing. That's one of the places I would look. There's also PTRC is getting ready to have a housing summit. I think it's in March, if I'm not mistaken. I can look that up and send that to you. I do have to hop off. I have a 3 o'clock. I gotta go. I'm so sorry.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you.
You guys are amazing.
I certainly understand. Thank you, Karen. Goodbye. Yeah, there is the housing summit. Let me look that up in case anyone is interested. I want to say, well, I'm sorry, I'm not finding it very easily. That can be information we can ask Sharika to send out. It's a day-long workshop, and there, I think for nonprofits, there's a $50 fee. There are a lot of folks coming together to talk about how can we incentivize more building that's affordable in our community. Seems there have been lots and lots of apartments going up, which is great, and many of them are very high end and not affordable to many, even of us, much less people who are currently homeless. So those are conversations that are happening in our community, and we certainly would love to get the word out about who could be potential players that could help address the issue. I recently had a meeting with Housing Authority of Winston-Salem, and they mentioned they have 60,000 people on their wait list. That, yeah, it's just, there are a lot of people who don't have anywhere to go. And it's that lots and lots and lots of cities are struggling with the same issue. It's nothing new, but that's the challenging time that we are in. So I ask again, if you happen to know of anyone that might be good to serve on this commission, please forward their name. Shane, thank you so much for your service. We look forward to the next DSS person and wish you all the best at your job at Atrium. And if there's nothing else, I will say that's it for today. Okay, thank you all very much. Have a good day. Thank you.